You're wrong about attraction. She didn't choose you when you spoke. She didn't choose you when you impressed her. She didn't choose you when you explained your future. She already decided before you even started. Before your words, before your effort, before your performance. And here's what destroys most men. You thought attraction was something you create, but in reality, it's something she detects. There are 3 hidden triggers buried deep inside female psychology. Not tricks, not pickup lines, biological patterns. Patterns that decide who she obsesses over, who she ignores, and who she can't forget, even years later. Most men will never understand even one. You're about to understand all 3. And the last one? It's the reason she lost interest in you, and the reason you never saw it coming. If this hit you, don't stay silent. Comment awake if you understand. And if you're done guessing, chasing, and losing without knowing why, subscribe. Not for motivation, for truth most men never see. The illusion of control. Attraction does not begin when you speak. It begins long before that. Before your words, before your effort, before you even realize you're being evaluated. You walk into a room thinking you still have time. Time to impress. Time to explain who you are. Time to prove your worth. But the truth is colder than that. By the time you open your mouth, a decision has already been made. Not consciously, not logically, but biologically. And that's where most men lose without even knowing the game started. Because you were taught the wrong strategy. You were told to speak clearly, to show ambition, to highlight your value. So you try. You talk about your plans, your goals, your future. You think you're building attraction. But what you're actually doing is exposing uncertainty. Because the man who has something doesn't feel the need to announce it, and she feels that difference instantly. Not in her thoughts, but in her body. There is a type of man who never explains himself. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He doesn't react to every shift in the room. He doesn't adjust himself to be liked, and because of that, everything around him adjusts to him. He moves slowly, not because he lacks urgency, but because nothing inside him is unstable. He listens more than he speaks, and when he does speak, it's brief, clean, final. No over-explanation, no emotional leakage, no hidden need for approval. And that creates something most men never experience. Weight, a psychological gravity. You can't see it, you can't measure it, but you can feel it. It pulls attention toward him without effort. And the strange part? He's not trying. That's what makes it powerful, because trying is always visible. You can see it in the man who talks too much, in the man who laughs too quickly, in the man who explains himself just a little too deeply. He wants to be understood. He wants to be accepted. And the moment that need appears, his value drops. Not because he's weak, but because he's seeking confirmation. And attraction doesn't grow in need. It grows in certainty. The man who is grounded in himself doesn't need to convince you of anything. His presence already communicates it. He sits like he has time. He speaks like he has options. He moves like nothing is slipping away from him. And that calm creates tension in others. Because now they start wondering, what is it about him? Why is he so unaffected? Why does he feel different? This is where attraction begins. Not in what you say, but in what she cannot explain about you. And most men destroy this before it even forms. They try to show value, they try to prove stability, they try to demonstrate control. But control, that needs to be demonstrated, is not control. It's performance. And performance always leaks. In your tone, in your timing, in your reactions. You say you're confident, but you check her response too quickly. You say you're calm, but you rush to fill silence. You say you're secure, but you explain yourself just a little too much. And she notices, not consciously, but instinctively. Because attraction doesn't analyze, it detects. The man who truly has control doesn't show it. He lives it. He doesn't react to pressure. He absorbs it. He doesn't chase outcomes. He allows them. He doesn't force connection. He lets it come, or not come, without resistance. And that is rare. So rare that when a woman feels it, she pauses. Not physically, internally. Because for the first time in a long time, she's not reading a man. She's feeling him, and she can't immediately understand what she's feeling. That uncertainty becomes curiosity. That curiosity becomes attention. And that attention is the beginning of attraction. This is the illusion most men never break out of. You think attraction comes from effort, but the truth is, effort often destroys it, because effort reveals intention, and intention reveals desire, and uncontrolled desire feels like imbalance. The man who is centered in himself doesn't feel like he's trying to gain something. He feels like he already has everything handled, and that perception is what pulls her in. Not your words, not your achievements, not your explanations, your state, the way you exist without trying to be seen. That's what creates the first crack. The moment she stops evaluating you logically and starts experiencing you emotionally. And once that happens, you're no longer competing with other men, because they're still trying and you're not. The need to be seen. There is a version of her that no one has ever truly met. Not her friends, not her family, not even the men who thought they knew her best. Because what you see is not the full picture. It's a curated version, a controlled projection, a personality shaped by years of adaptation. She learned early what works, when to smile, when to agree, when to hide discomfort, when to appear confident, even when she isn't. Over time, it becomes automatic, so automatic that even she forgets what's real and what's performance. But the real version never disappears. It stays underneath, quiet, unexpressed, waiting. And here's the truth most men never realize. She doesn't crave attention. She craves recognition, not surface-level compliments, not predictable praise, but something far more rare. To be seen in a way she has never been seen before. This is where everything changes, because most men interact with what is obvious. They respond to her appearance, her personality, her energy. But they never go deeper. They stay on the surface, where it's safe. And because of that, they become forgettable. But then, she meets a man who doesn't stop at the surface. A man who notices what doesn't match, the slight delay in her laughter, the confidence that fades in specific moments, the strength she shows in public, and the tension she carries underneath it. He doesn't ask directly, he doesn't interrogate, he simply observes. And then, at the right moment, he says something that lands too precisely to ignore. Not loud, not dramatic, just accurate. You're very good at handling people, but you don't trust them enough to relax around them. And suddenly, everything shifts. Her expression changes, not into comfort, into exposure. Because in that moment, she feels something she's not used to feeling. Seen, not admired, not desired, seen. And that feeling is dangerous, because it goes past logic. It goes straight into identity. You have to understand something critical here. People will forget compliments, they will forget conversations, but they will never forget the person who understood something about them that they never explained, because that person becomes different. Not just another interaction, but a reference point, a mirror. And once you become that mirror, you become difficult to replace. This is why she becomes drawn in, not because you impressed her, but because you revealed her. And here's where most men fail again. They try to imitate this. They use generic, deep lines. They pretend to understand emotions. They act insightful. But there's a problem. Depth cannot be faked, because real observation has weight, and imitation feels hollow. She might not be able to explain it, but she feels the difference instantly. Real insight is quiet. It doesn't try to impress. It simply lands. And when it lands, it creates tension inside her. A tension between two feelings. I feel exposed, and I feel understood. That contradiction is what pulls her closer. Because now she's no longer interacting casually. Now she's engaged at a deeper level. She starts thinking about what you said, replaying it, questioning it. Not because she disagrees, but because it touched something real. And the moment she starts thinking about you when you're not there, the dynamic has already changed. You are no longer just present in her environment. You are present in her mind, and that's where attachment begins. But here's the part most men never understand. This isn't a one-time effect. Seeing her once gets attention. Seeing her repeatedly creates connection. Because every time you recognize something real about her, you reinforce something powerful: you understand me. And once that belief forms, she starts opening. Not all at once, gradually, in pieces, because now it feels safe. Not safe because you said the right things, but safe because you see clearly, and clarity creates trust faster than comfort ever can. But the moment you stop seeing her, everything fades. Not dramatically, silently. Because now she feels it. The difference. Before, you noticed everything. Now, you don't. Before, she felt understood. Now, she feels ordinary again. And she won't fight for attention. She'll withdraw. Because once someone experiences being truly seen, going back to being unseen feels like loss. That's why this is so powerful and so dangerous. Because you're not just creating attraction, you're creating meaning. And meaning is what people attach to. So understand this clearly. It's not about saying the right words. It's about noticing what others ignore. It's about speaking to the part of her that she doesn't show, calmly, precisely, without trying to impress. Because the moment she feels that, you stop being just another man. You become the one who understands her reality. And once that happens, walking away from you doesn't feel simple anymore. Because she's not just leaving a person, she's leaving the only place where she felt completely seen. The necessity wound, the obsession trigger. There is one fear a woman cannot handle. It's not the fear of losing you. She has rehearsed that 1,000 times. She has planned for it. She has imagined the scenario. She has cried in the dark, walked away in her mind, called her friends, laid down contingencies. She can survive losing a man she loves. She can manage that. She can navigate it. But there is something deeper, something far more ancient. It's the fear of being unnecessary, of existing in a life where her presence is irrelevant, where her absence would leave no void, where she is replaceable. That fear is primal, encoded into her biology, wired into her nervous system long before social niceties or self-help books. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival depended on her position within the group, within her family, within her mate. If she could be replaced, she could be abandoned. If she could be abandoned, her survival, or that of her children, could be threatened. The women who survived, the ones who thrived, were hypersensitive to any signal that their presence was not essential. And that sensitivity still runs in every woman today. No matter how independent, no matter how accomplished, no matter how modern her life seems. It is unconscious, it is undeniable, and it is lethal in its power over attachment. Because most men never understand it. They mistake attention for interest, presence for investment, flattery for necessity. But she doesn't crave noise. She craves structural significance. She needs to occupy a space in your world that no one else can, a position that is load-bearing. Without her, something collapses. Without her, the architecture of your life is incomplete. And this is the point where obsession begins. Not manipulation, not trickery. This is reality. The natural effect of a man who is complete unto himself. Because here's the paradox. The man who needs her repels her. The man who seems self-sufficient attracts her beyond reason. The dependent man signals desperation, scarcity, and limited options. The independent man signals irrelevance of her presence to survival. And the brain, ancient and unthinking, interprets that absence of need as a challenge. It fires the survival system, the replaceability alarm, in a way that modern logic cannot suppress. She begins to test herself. She begins to prove herself. She begins to demonstrate that she is essential. Every action she takes now, every effort, every small gesture, is aimed at one goal: to fill a space that only she can occupy. And here's the kicker. You don't have to tell her she's essential. You don't have to remind her. You don't have to say a word. Because the moment she perceives it on her own, it drives her into deep emotional investment. Subtlety is the knife edge. A glance you don't think she notices, a hand tightening during a vulnerable moment, a change in tone when she hints at absence. These micro signals confirm one thing: you are complete without her. And yet, in small, imperceptible ways, she sees that her presence matters. That's when the necessity wound activates. And when that wound activates, rationality ceases to operate. Reason becomes irrelevant. She doesn't consciously choose to invest. Her biology drives her. Every conversation, every gesture, every shared experience becomes a test. Every act of care, thoughtfulness, attention, is her proving her place in your world. Not because you demand it, not because she wants to please you, but because your self-sufficiency has triggered an ancient need to matter. This is why obsession begins. And obsession is not simple. It's not just attention or desire. It's an emotional and psychological architecture. It shapes how she organizes her thoughts, how she prioritizes her actions, how she interprets other men, how she measures herself against reality. But master all three, and she becomes irrevocably invested. Her attention, her energy, her time, her devotion, it all orbits around you without conscious direction, and she does it willingly, because biology, psychology, and survival instinct all combine to make her respond this way. The necessity wound is not just attraction, it is obsession. It is the point where a woman cannot stop investing because she perceives her life as incomplete without filling a unique space in yours. And that is where the game is no longer optional. These three forces are not random. They are not tricks, routines, or techniques you can memorize. They follow a precise sequence, an architecture built into human psychology long before culture or conscious thought existed. First, she feels your stability. Not what you say, not the story of your achievements, not your resume or ambitions. She feels it in the way you exist, the calm in your posture, the quiet certainty that your world is handled. It is not performative, it is internal, gravitational, undeniable. The man who exudes this does not need to prove himself. The proof is inherent in the way he moves, in the silence he carries. And the moment she senses it, she cannot look away. She is drawn to the center of a force she cannot name, a certainty she cannot argue with. Next, she feels understood by you. Not superficially, not through empty words or shallow flattery. She feels it in the moments when you notice what no one else does, the hesitation behind her laughter, the tension she hides beneath confidence, the unspoken contradictions she herself has learned to ignore. When you acknowledge these layers, subtly, precisely, without fanfare, she experiences a sensation almost forgotten. She is seen, truly seen. This is where attachment deepens. Not admiration, not desire. Something older, something structural. Her mind begins to orbit your perception of her. Her emotions synchronize with the attention you give, not attention to her surface, but to her unseen self. And she cannot stop thinking about it, or you. Finally, she fights to matter to you. This is the third force, the necessity wound. It is primal, it is unconscious. It triggers an obsession few men ever understand. When she senses your completeness, your self-sufficiency, her biology, her instincts, her psychology push her to carve a space in your life that only she can occupy. Her investment, attention, and energy become focused on becoming irreplaceable, proving her relevance, filling a gap that no one else can. She does this quietly, instinctively, without coercion or awareness. And when you occasionally allow her to see the effect of her presence, small, unannounced, unperformed confirmations, she is bonded to you at a level logic cannot reach. Most men stumble into this sequence by accident. They don't know what they did right or what they did wrong. They chase, they perform, they seek validation, and they lose her, forever wondering why. But once you understand the architecture, once you see the pattern clearly, you no longer guess. You stop performing, you stop pleading for attention. You stop trying to impress or explain yourself. You begin becoming the man who doesn't chase, the man who doesn't demand, the man who creates attention, connection, and devotion effortlessly, simply by existing within the structure these forces were designed to respond to. This is not manipulation, this is mastery. This is psychology, biology, and strategy converging. And once you step into it, you never look at attraction the same way again.